Hey guys, it's Tom M from Tabletop Republic, and I'm here with a budget deck tech. It is a Cleric Tribal. At the helm is Orah, Skyclave, Hierophant. During lockdown and such, I've been building a few decks with some of the guys I play with. We do budget tribal, and the budget is $50. I wanted to do Orah as soon as it came out as the buy a box promo for Zendikar, and I managed to get in a pretty good deck. It plays quite well for $50. Obviously price may change and such. The prices for all these cards were, as I did my research and was typing up all the cards and double checking my deck was at 100%, which was about, I want to say, the 3rd of, actually no, it's probably like late February as I'm recording, because it's the 6th of March. I didn't record it quite as quickly as I thought I was going to, but the prices will all be around the same unless all of a sudden one of them becomes extremely valuable with like a spoiled card from Strixhaven or something. But yeah, I'll just jump into it. I'm going to go quite into depth. I'm going to put timestamps in the description of when things are. At the end I'm going to put like what cards I'd add to improve. But yeah, you can feel free to flick around with the timestamps at the bottom to find areas you want, but I'm going to go into proper detail of why I've got these specific cards in there, because otherwise it's just me reading off a list I could just easily post on in a description. I'm also going to have the deck list in the description with the link going to MTG Goldfish, which is what I'm using for the budget, hence why it's in dollars and not pounds. Right, so first up, the Commander. Orah, pretty cheap Commander, because it came out as the buy box promo. I got it for, with a box. But the main bit is that he's a Cleric. He's got a bit of lifelink, which is also quite good, but whenever he or another Cleric you control dies, you can get a Cleric with less CMC from your graveyard to the battlefield. That is just, really good with some of these cards in here. The main aim is that your Clerics are expendable. Like, you don't want to have boards of like Teferi's Protection, stuff that will keep them on the board. You don't care if they die, as long as you've got stuff in the graveyard you can flick them back out. There's quite a wide range of CMC, quite a lot of lower CMC as well, obviously, because if your big stuff dies, you could just bring out, if something with 5 CMC dies, you can still bring out something with 4 or less for free, and it doesn't come in tapped as well, so you can, they'll be ready for you straight away. So first up, we've got the non-cleric creatures. These are the ones with that do life gain and life loss, similar to clerics but aren't clerics. So you've got Corpse Knight. When a creature enters under my control, each opponent loses a life. And then 2 ones relating around when my stuff dies, which is Zulaport Cutthroat and Cruel Celebrant. Cruel Celebrant's basically double the price of Zulaport. I believe it's just because it has the Planeswalker feature as well. I do not have any Planeswalkers in this deck, so that bit doesn't matter. But yeah, just a lot of stuff where, I don't care if stuff dies because I'll just slowly ping my opponents, which would be good. Then I've got Gary. My devotion to black, I think my white and black is pretty equal, and so, it's not like it should be good, no matter what. Don't know what I'm saying half of this. I'm gonna not edit this video, so sorry if you'll hear me go or R a lot. I just want to get this video out as soon as possible before the deck zone becomes a $100 tribal deck, in case Command Zone or someone does a video about it. You've got Sir Conrad, about creatures dying, but then also creatures leaving your graveyard, which is really good with Orah because stuff's moving from the graveyard to the battlefield. And the Vizkopa Guildmage, the main ability is the bottom one, where for 3 mana, whenever you gain life this turn, each opponent loses that much life. Very similar to Sanguine Bond, I believe is the one, which I don't have in this deck, but is in my, spoiler alert, it's in my improvements if this wasn't a budget deck. But, 3 mana each turn to get Sanguine Bond wouldn't be too bad. And then the final ones for this category are Bloodthirsty Aerialist, just good flying protection, buffs up really easily, and Indulging Patrician, Basically, at the end of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses a life. Really easily doable with this deck, but also it's got flying. You know, just good to stay on the battlefield. Then I've got one non-cleric creature, which is protection / removal, which is Redain, God of the Worthy, with the other side, of course, the Protector Shield. So you've got options. You know, you can either have a 2/3 Flying Vigilance God. Snowlands enter tapped, really good if you know you're playing against an opponent who only has Snowlands because it will screw them over. And then non-creature spells your opponents cast CMC 4 or more cost 2 more, or what I'd probably play on the shield size, because every time an opponent would do damage to you, prevent 1 of that damage. So if they're attacking you with the 51 ones, it does 0 damage. Love those kind of cards. And then counter anything that targets you unless they pay 1. Again, just that slight protection in case they forget it's on the board, or they need that 1 extra land just to make it so they can target you. And you know, for a double-sided god, less than $1 was pretty good. Then go on to the clerics. You've got life gain, life loss clerics. Cleric and life's bond. When a cleric enters, you gain a life, and then it slowly buffs up with 1/1 counters. Core Celebrant, when anything enters under my control, I gain a life. Righteous Valkyrie is very good as well. Obviously, there's not that many angels in there, so wouldn't worry about the angel part. But when a cleric enters, you gain life equal to its toughness. And then if I have 7 or more life than my starting total, which is easy in a Orzhov life gain deck, my creatures get a little buff, which is quite nice. Ancestor's Prophet, I can tap 5 clerics I have to gain 10 life. You know, pretty good, seeing as majority of my creatures are clerics. And it's something to do in case, you know, I leave them open in case someone blocks. And then just before it goes to my turn, just tap them all and then gain 10 life, which is, you know, quite a bit. Doubtless 1, power and toughness equal to the number of clerics in play, so it'll at least be a 1/1 because it itself is a cleric, but could be quite big, and it's got wordy lifelink there. And then Scion of the Swarm, just a slightly more expensive bloodthirsty aerialist, but it is a cleric. Then Satyr Priest, pretty similar to that Zulaport. Not Zulaport Cutthroat, because this one, when something enters, but yeah, when anything enters, you either gain a life if it's your thing, or an opponent loses a life. And it's also a May effect, which could come in handy if, you know, someone has a dodgy card that could ruin it. Syndic of Tithes. It's the only card in the deck with Extort. Extort was used in quite a lot of the deck lists I've seen around. I do like it, but so it requires me to cast a lot of spells and also have that extra mana, and, you know, each opponent loses a life, and then I'd gain 3 life if everyone was still in the game. So it could be quite handy, you know. It's one of those cards where I'd see how it goes. Then Skemfar Shadow Sage. This was in the this was made for like the elf tribal decks, I believe, but it is a cleric as well. Each player loses X life, where X is the number of clerics I have, or I gain X life, where X is the number of clerics I have. Yeah, I believe that's the correct wording of it all. Then more life gain, life loss ones. Yeah, Veto, of course, one of the more expensive cards at $4, but, you know, brilliant. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and 5 mana to make everything I have gain life link. Really good if, you know, I have loads of clerics and I can go wide. Marauding Blight Priest, just to knock opponent's life a bit down. And Attended Healer. I'll be gaining life pretty much every turn, and this isn't each one of my turns, it's everyone's turn, so, you know, just a bit of token stuff. And also it's got a nice little, you know, 3 mana, a cleric gains life link, which could come in handy. You know, I like these kind of cards where they've got that mana option in case you have no cards in hand or anything, so you can be like, yeah, I might as well spend a bit of mana on that. Then the final 2 are the more expensive. Well, Valkyrie Harbinger. Flying lifelink. If I gain 4 or more life of each end step, I get a 4/4 flying vigilance angel. That's really good. All I've got to do is try and make sure I gain 4 or more life, which should be easy with the card you'll see. And I get some nice flying, attacking and protection, and then Angel of Destiny. I've got to have an alternate win con in there somewhere, so I thought I might as well have this. When a creature I control deals damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. So basically all my creatures have lifelink, but my opponents essentially don't lose any life, because they lose the life from the creature, but they gain that much life. However, the main ability is if I have 15 or more life during my end step, if Angel of Destiny attacks someone, they lose the game. Does require quite a lot of setup, but if it pays off, that's going to be one of the most talked about things of like that week you talk about when you play Magic. Then Graveyard Return, only 2, because Orah does it and a few other cards do it later. Archfiend's Vessel. This made for this deck pretty much. When it comes in from the graveyard, you exile it, but I get a 5/5 flying demon. So really easily doable. Let's get a pretty big creature on the board, and then Null Priest of Oblivion. So 2 mana for a menace lifelink cleric isn't too bad, but then I pay an extra 3 and a black when it comes in. I can return a creature from a graveyard to the battlefield. If I have the mana, might be something worth doing. I just hope I've got enough creatures in the graveyard for it to actually matter. Then Protection and Removal. I've got Jarl of the Forsaken, so one of the first Foretell one you'll see. I've got a couple of Foretell because I do like that ability. So Foretell it, and then for 2 mana I can flash it in and destroy a creature or planeswalker that was dealt damage this turn. So if someone attacks me, I just chump block. I can flash this in and destroy their creature. I think it's underrated, especially for 17 cents. Can't complain. Demon's Disciple. When it enters, everyone sacks a creature. I'm tempted to add more cards like this because obviously I want my creatures in the graveyard, but I don't want too many creatures in the graveyard. Again, we'll see how it goes when I play this a bit more. And then Vengeful Reaper. I didn't know where to put this, so I put it in removal because it's got Death Touch. But I can foretell it, and so for 2 mana I can bring out a Flying Death Touch Haste 2/3 Cleric, and it's also an Angel as well, which affects some of the other cards you've seen. And then Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim. This was the last card I added because I was like, oh, do I not? I had to get rid of some of my non-basic lands to afford it in the budget. But for 1 mana and sacking another creature, I gain life equal to their toughness. And for 3 mana and sacking a creature, exile a target non-land permanent, but only if I have 10 or more life than my starting life total. So, if there's a board wipe, I could just pay as much mana as I can to gain a bunch of life because I know the creatures are going to die. Or, if I've got more life than I begin with, 3 mana for, what's that, it was exile, so, I can't remember the card. The 3 mana Orzhov, exile, permanent. Really good last ability there. Shield Mage Eldar, and again another one that, all from the same set. I can't remember what it was. I think it was maybe Onslaught. Tap 2 clerics I control to prevent all damage a creature would deal this turn. Just a little thing in case I don't attack and I leave my creatures open. But it also has a wizard ability, whereas prevent all damage target spell would deal this turn. There's a couple of cleric wizards in here, but the main one is the top one. Chroma's Devoted. All my clerics have lifelink. Not lifelink, vigilance. Good for just to look at the card previously, where I can still attack and then activate those abilities and the tap to gain 10 life thing. And then Tabrok's Hope's Demise. It's a flying 2/2. Has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more 1/1 counters on it. You get the counters by another non-token creature you control dying. If it's a cleric as well, I can draw a card and lose a life, which, it's a Cleric Tribal deck, so that will happen a lot. And then Furger, Judge of Valor. This was one I was umming about, but I think it could be good because I was like, oh no, why would I want stuff in my graveyard? Then I remembered it's a semi-graveyard based deck. You know, whenever I cast a second spell each turn, look at the top 3 cards, 1 in hand, rest in the graveyard. And also, you know, flying protection, always handy. Then, draw. No, not draw. Oh, no, sorry, these are draw. These are the draw cards, these are protection removal. Then ramp. So I've got to have an Arcane Signet in there, a Talisman of Hierarchy, and a Replicating Ring. I love Replicating Ring. It's in all my decks at the minute. Just because, you know, it's a commander, it'll last longer than 8 turns, and if it isn't removed, I get, what, 9 Replicating Rings? And then, you know, the original Replicating Ring still continues to get counters on. I do not have a Soul Ring in this, which will shock and offend some people, but it is in my, you know, how I could improve this deck. I didn't have it. I didn't add it because I simply just didn't have a spare one. I've got so many commander decks now that I actually need more Soul Rings. If anyone fancies sending me some free Soul Rings, I'll happily take them, so I don't have to print them out on paper. Then draw and tutor. I've got Cosmos Elixir. Again, just made for this deck. If I don't have if my life total is less than my starting one, I gain 2 life. If it's more than my starting one, at the end of my end step, I draw a card. Just, you know, a win-win either way. Knight's Whisper, very expensive for this card, but, you know, I might change it around, see what I could add for $2.50. But I just draw 2 cards and lose 2 life for 2 mana. And then Wishclaw Talisman, one of my favourite tutoring kind of cards. You know, if you make some good alliances with people, you get 2 free tutors and an opponent gets 1. Otherwise, you get 1 and, you know, an opponent, 2 different opponents get 2. But it's very good. Obviously, there's not much tutor you can afford in a budget deck. But, you know, hopefully Wishclaw would work. Then, just looking at my other screen, trying to see where I am on my list. Protection and removal. Erebos's Intervention. You know, target creature gets -X until end of turn, and I gain X life. Or I can exile double X cards from graveyards, but I'd mostly be doing that top one just for creature removal. Final payment, 2 mana and sack a creature to destroy a creature, or sack a creature or enchantment to destroy a creature. You know, very cheap because not that many people want to sack a creature, pay 5 life, or destroy an enchantment. But, you know, it would come back because of Orah's ability, or something else will come back because of Orah's ability. And then Dire Tactics, exile a creature for 2 mana, and if I don't control a human, I lose life equal to that toughness. However, pretty much most of these clerics are human, so there's no downside to it. Light of Hope, mostly be choosing the middle option of destroy enchantment for 1 mana, return to dust 4 mana to exile an artifact or enchantment, or if I do it at sorcery speed, 2 artifacts or enchantments. And Heliod's Intervention, just destroying X artifacts and enchantments, or I can gain twice X life. You know, that's one of the ones where I can easily pick either of them depending on the situation. Banishing Light, exile something until banishing leaves the battlefield, always comes in handy in white decks. Despark, exile something with CMC 4 or more. Whoops, press the wrong button. You know, very handy. You know, it's not that expensive because it's, you know, CMC 4 or more, and a lot of people have lower cost spells, but, you know, the bigger scary spells are normally the ones that cost CMC 4 or more. And then not that many board wipes in this deck because, you know, I don't want that much of my stuff dying, but Shatter the Sky for $1. Destroy all creatures for 4 mana. Ghostly Prison is slightly more expensive, but very good at stopping opponents from attacking me because they have to pay 2 for each creature that attacks me. And then Rally the Ranks, just my clerics get +1/1, just a tiny little buff. Could be handy with the lifelink stuff, gain an extra bit amount of life. Right, next step is Graveyard Return. No, is it not? Have I gone too far? Oh, Life Lost, Life Gain, of course. So, Light of Promise. Whenever I gain life, put that many counters on the enchanted creature. It is, I think the original card is Sunbond, which I absolutely loved. And then they literally announced Light of Promise, which I think costs a mana less and is cheaper. And just, oh, it's so underrated. Griffin Airy, beginning of my end step if I gain 3 of my life, which I'll hopefully do every turn. Get a little token during my turn. Relic Vial, again, just another card based around clerics. When a creature I control dies, it's the gain. Everyone loses a life and I gain a life kind of thing. Or I've got the, you know, alternate option to sack a creature to draw a card, but I probably won't do that one. Godfarer Statue, spells my opponent's cast cost 2 more, and at the beginning of my own step, each opponent loses a life. Just ping them down a bit more. Ill-Gotten Inheritance, beginning of my upkeep, deals 1 damage to everyone, I gain a life, and for 6 mana I can deal 4 to an opponent, to target opponent, and I gain 4. But, you know, just keep it on the battlefield, just because opponents will get slightly annoyed by it, just keep pinging, and, you know, it's cheap. It's cheap to pick up, 21 cents. And these kind of cards are underrated. And Revenge of Ravens especially, it's very similar to Ghostly Prison, where it stops opponents from attacking you, because whenever something attacks you, they lose a life and I gain a life. So if they're attacking me with, you know, 51 ones, they lose 50 life and I gain 50 life. I just love that example because of like the Flying Pegasus situation of like, oh yeah, I have 50 life, I bring out 50 Pegasus and swing at you. Whoops, I forgot you have that. Then Graveyard Return. Unearth. 1 mana to bring something with CMC 3 or less from my graveyard to the battlefield. Fiendishly underpriced that. That is very good for this kind of thing. And also it has cycling as well, in case, you know, I draw it in my first turn and I have nothing in the graveyard. Call of the Death Dweller. Return 2 things with CMC 3 or less. And they also get Menace and Death Touch, you know, split between love Call of the Death Dweller, one of my favourite cards from Ikoria. Ascent of the Worthy, with the new cards from Kaldheim. Choose a creature you control. If, you know, damage will be dealt to my creatures, it's all dealt to that instead, so you just put it on a big creature or one you want to die. And then, you know, if it stays on the board, the 3rd turn, I return something to the battlefield with flying, which is very handy. Profane Command. Some options here. The main one I'd probably use it for is returning something with CMC X or less to the battlefield, but I could also give a creature at -X/-X, make someone lose X life, or X creatures gain fear, so they can't be blocked except by artifact and or black creatures, in case I want to swing at people. Minions Return, one of those cards that I'll probably remove like sooner if I get any of my improvement cards. Just, you know, if something... Well, I don't have to enchant one of my creatures, but, you know, when a creature on the battlefield dies, it comes under my control. So, could be good if I know I'm going to destroy an opponent's creature, but I'll probably mostly use it on mine, just so I get the Cleric... I get the Cleric dying trigger, and then it just re-enters. And then Sanguine Indulgence, you know, with the top ability, I'll pretty much only be paying a black to cast it, so a black to return 2 creatures from a graveyard to my hand. Again, I'll probably remove it sooner rather than later. If I'm going to return something from a graveyard, I prefer it to be to my hand, to the battlefield then to my hand. Then, lands. Basic lands. I've got 12 of each basic lands. I've got quite a few, you know, not a lot of non-basic because, you know, they don't cost anything. Literally on MTG Goldfish, they are $0 because you can get them from free from stores. Non-basic lands is the final category, so let's just go through these. Oars of Gilgate and Forsaken Sanctuary, just a bit of tap lands. Scowled Barrens to gain a life as it comes in, you know, better than the other 2 to your left, but you know, just there, essentially just there to build up the numbers. Temple of Silence to scry, Shimmerdrift Vale. I want to give this a test, see how it actually goes, because I feel like it'd be annoying if I choose, you know, black and then all of a sudden my next 5 lands are swamps and I'm out of white and I can't change my mind. Base Camp is perfect, even though it enters tapped, you know, I tap for 1 mana of any colour, but I can only cast a Cleric with it, or activate an ability of a Cleric, or, you know, Rogue Warrior, Wizard. Middle 2 won't matter. I do have a few Wizards, but they are also Clerics. You know, great for this deck and dead cheap. Command Tower, it's a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be. I always forget how much it's decreasing in value just because it's being reprinted a lot, and I love that. Evolving Wilds and Myriad Landscape just for some sack lands. Radiant Fountain just to gain some life as it enters. The card I can never pronounce, Reliquary Tower. There we are. I had to close my eyes and focus on that. Just have no max hand size. I'm not going to be drawing a lot, but it's still worth just having in there in case something happens where I can draw half my deck. And then the Great Hall of Starnheim, a new one from Kaldheim, taps for a black, and then for white, black and tapping and sacking it, create a 4/4 Flying Angel at sorcery speed. You know, great emergency, contingency plan. Right, that is the deck. I will now just go on to what I do to improve it. So I have two categories for this. I have budget improvements, which is $0 to $3, and then the expensive improvements, which is $3 plus. So I will go get right in there because it's these are a bit smaller to fit more in the screen. But here's what I would, how would I improve it? If I needed to just swap over a few cards. Oh, one lost. Non-basic land. Leecher in the Swamp. A black and tapping, each opponent loses a life, but I can only do it if I have two more black permanents. Just a little pinging more. Right, here we are. Here's the budget improvements. So, a couple of budget creatures. You got Soul Warden. When a creature enters, on anyone's battlefield, I gain a life. Could be quite handy. I do like it, and it is a cleric. Cabal Archon. Black and sack a cleric. Target player loses a life, and I gain 2 life. Could be good. Would get rid of a lot of clerics. Activate Orah, but we'll I'll see if I need any more creatures or if I need to swap any out. And Species Specialist. Whenever a cleric dies, I draw a card. Pretty good. I prefer it to be not on a creature. I think I've got a few options like that later, but could be handy. Mana Rocks, also Signet, Soul Ring and Commander Sphere. Obviously, I'll see how I do for ramp and mana and stuff, but if I was to add anything, it would be Signet and Soul Ring. Starlit Sanctum. Now, this is a card I definitely want to add. It is a cleric land. So it taps for colourless, or white and tap and sack a cleric. I gain life equal to that toughness, or black sack and tap. Black sack a cleric and tap. Target player loses life equal to the power of the cleric. 53 cents, swap it out for, the Leecher and Swamp or something, and it's perfect. Unclaimed Territory, a bit more expensive. Add 1 mana of any colour to cast a cleric. It's very similar to Base Camp, but just doesn't come in tapped. For an extra, $1.50 roughly, so it doesn't come in tapped. It depends on, if you think it'd be worth it or not. And Tainted Field, very good price on that. Add white or black, but only if you have a swamp. Obviously, it's not that expensive because it's not CEDH worthy, but could be very good. Especially compared to some of the tap lands I put in for about 10p less, 10 cents less. Then board wipes. I've got could go for Crippling Fear, so all non-clerics get -3/-3, but again, I don't want to do that many board wipes, so I'll do a lot more targeted removal of stuff. Kaya's Wrath, destroy all creatures, and I gain life equal to the number of creatures destroyed that way. That would be the preferred board wipe if I was to add another one. If anything, I might swap out Wrath of God? I already feel for that. Bone Reflection, I get double life gain. There's a few other cards like it, but there's not a ridiculous amount of life gain, life loss in this. It is mostly Cleric Tribal. But, again, after a few plays of it and just seeing how it goes, I'll see whether or not I need double life. Etching, I'll go from the top row. Etchings of the Chosen, all my clerics get +1/1, and then 1 mana sacking a cleric, target creature you control gains indestructible. Very handy card. Get rid of a if I've got Orah out on the battlefield and they're about to destroy it, just get rid of a worse cleric, activate Orah's ability to get something else on the battlefield, and I give Orah Indestructible to keep out. That's definitely one I'll probably be adding sooner. Victimize, highly underrated card. Glad it got reprinted in Commander Legends. Sack a creature and return 2 creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Again, it's just not expensive because they come in tapped, and I'm okay with waiting a turn for that ability. Because with Orah out on the battlefield, I get 3 creatures. Pyre of Heroes. Now this is one that I feel like the price may fluctuate a lot because people are considering this a big sleeper from Kaldheim, but we'll see. 2 mana, tap and sack a creature. Search for something with a CMC that has 1 more than that and put it on the battlefield, but only at sorcery speed. Doesn't come in tapped, so it could be quite handy, but you know, I've got clerics of all kinds of CMC, but also I'd be sacking that creature and getting something with a CMC, you know, equal to 1 or less with Orah on the battlefield. Profane Prayers deals X damage to a creature or player, and I gain X life, where X is number of clerics. I believe it's errata to deals X to any target, and I gain X for X is number of clerics. But very cheap for a really good, you know, cleric based spell. Misery Charm, another one. I could either destroy cleric, which I probably wouldn't do because I doubt many opponents would have clerics, and I wouldn't want to destroy mine for a mana. Return a target cleric from graveyard to my hand, you know, or a target player loses 2 life. Probably wouldn't add this. Probably one of the worst cards on my improvements list, but you know, could come in handy if I feel like I need more graveyard return to my hand. And then Dark Prophecy. I'm really tempted for this one. You know, when a creature you control dies, draw a card and lose a life. I don't mind about losing a life because I've got a bit of life gain in there, and you know, it gives me a bit more draw, which is definitely what I feel like I need the most in this deck. Then I go on to the non-budget improvements. So, you can see quite a bit more pricey cards here. So I've got lands at the top. You know, the first step whenever you improve a deck is how can I improve the mana base. So you've got Vault of Champions, Bright Climb, Pathway, and the flip side, which I forget. I think it's like... oh man, I'm actually going to have to look it up, aren't I? I've already forgotten what it was. I think it's like Dark... How have I already forgotten it? Grim. No, is it Grim? Sorry about this. Yeah, Grim Climb Pathway. Whoops. Marsh Flats, you know, the more expensive one. Isolated Chapel, Godless Shrine, and Fetid Heath. All kinds of mana options, you know. Swap out those tap lands if you want to improve it. Smothering Tithe, must have in any deck with white, of course. Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond for that infinite combo, that win on the spot option. And then I didn't add all the tutors in the world to this list because you know, everyone knows about Grim Tutor and Diabolic Tutor, etc. But I put Diabolic Intent on there. So, you know, 2 mana and you have to sack a creature. Doesn't matter that much in this deck. Search for a card and put it in your hand. You don't have to reveal it, and it doesn't have to be a specific type of card. It's very good for, you know, if you can afford another $25 to your cost. Then some clerics you can add. Edgewalker. I definitely need to find a way to add this in because my clerics cost a white and a black less. So, you know, if you had, for example, a second Edgewalker, if you had an illegal second Edgewalker, he'd only cost 1 mana to pay. That, you know, Battle Tide below would cost 1 less. But I've got quite a lot of dual colour clerics, so it could be handy. Rotlung Reanimator, this price spiked as soon as Orah was announced, and it stayed really high. But whenever this or a cleric is put into a graveyard from play, you get a 2/2 zombie. You know, really handy. I believe. What's the? I've already forgotten. There's the black Tormod. I think it is. Is it Tormod? It's the black zombie. Whenever a creature leaves your graveyard, you gain 2. You get a 2/2 zombie. I was tempted to add that to the list as well, but yeah, it's not a cleric, and you need to return those clerics back to the battlefield for it to probably matter. Arms Collector comes in at flash speed, and if an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card. Just get a bit more draw in there. Twilight Prophet, more expensive, but it's if I have 10 or more permanents, I get the City's Blessing. And then at the beginning of my upkeep, if I have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card and put it in my hand. Each opponent loses X life and I gain X life, where it's CMC. Quite handy, but again, probably a bit too much for this deck. Archangel of Thune, again, not worth it for this specific one, but whenever I gain life, put a 1/1 counter on each creature I control. Obviously, it'll just buff up my clerics. But one I probably would add sooner rather than later is Battle Tide Alchemist. If I was to deal damage to a player, you can. If a source would deal damage to a player, so most of the time it would be a source doing damage to me, I prevent X, where X is the number of clerics I control. I don't need to do anything, it's just how many I have out in the battlefield, which is very handy. And it's, I may prevent the damage so I can make some friends and alliances. Mangara the Diplomat, he's a cleric, very good card, just good draw engine. And then the final 3 cards, I could add Well of Lost Dreams. Whenever I gain life, I could pay X, where X is less than or equal to the number of life to draw. There's a lot. As you can see, there's a lot of drawing I could add. Skull Clamp, perfect for this deck. I've got a load of low toughness clerics, and I just kill them off so they die. Of course, kill them off so they go to the graveyard. Trigger Orah. Draw 2 cards and I get another cleric out and I can equip that to, could be good. I just need to see how many actual 1 toughness clerics I have. And then Herald's Horn, my clerics cost colourless less, and then reveal the top card on my upkeep if it's a cleric I put it in my hand. There's similar ones to that I could add, but just one example. But yeah, there is my Orah budget Cleric Tribal $50 deck. Obviously prices will fluctuate and stuff, but yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if I was missing any cards either in the deck or under my improvements list. Let me know if you think any of the cards from the improvements list should be swapped out straight away with the cards in the deck. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back around soon with another deck tech. What next? I've got managed to source up my shelves, so I've got all my commander decks facing me now. Might show off my pirate deck next, but you'll find out soon enough when I get round to recording my next video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you then.